check. I'm going to disconnect from here and reconnect from the other room.
Oh, okay. Okay. So when you first get to our the URL, which the URL will be provided by BTS, as well as your login information. This is the first screen you'll see, and I can get my mouse over there. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sign in. And this is generally what most people will see. If you are set up to do, if you are authorized to do cancels and refunds, your screen will be slightly different. Only you'll have more options up in this area here. But for the most part, this is what most people will see. Here we have on this bar we have the different options that you can go to. This is your user information, and here is where you can go and change your password if you need to. Also, you can view your account settings over here. This will, when you first log in for the first time, it's going to ask you to change your password and to set some security questions. And that will allow you to, if you forget your password or you lock yourself out, you'll be able to use the forgot password link and be able to reset your own password. But this is also, if you go to account settings, this is where you'd see your information and you'd see the security questions. It's not going to show you your answers. It's only going to show you it'll show you the questions, and then if you want to change it, you can. Otherwise, you don't have to change that every time. But so that's just information of where your user settings are maintained. So back to the first screen, we have a quick search. And on the quick search, this is where you can, if you happen to know the order ID, the person is calling you and it's on the receipt, they say, oh, here's my order ID. You can just key that in directly here, and it'll take you directly to the order details. There's a couple different ways that we can search with the quick search. The order ID. There's also the local reference ID. And the local reference ID, I believe for most services, they're going to send the account number. So obviously for Water Bureau, it would be their Water Bureau account number. And when you search for that, I think this is the right one, you would see, this was a lot of testing, you'd see that there were this person had a lot of different orders. But we're specifically looking at the Water BT ones down here, so this was his account number, so he made these transactions. So you'd be able to see basically sort of a payment history for that particular account by using that particular search. You can also search here by the credit card number, and that means the last 4 digits of the credit card number. That's obviously going to pull up a lot more. You're going to get a lot more in that listing because credit card numbers, a lot of different people can have the last 4 digits of their credit card number. So when that's the quick search. I'm going to go to the order detail search, and this is where you can go and look at for the different services. In this particular case, I'm set up for the Water Bureau, and I'm going to go look at the Water VT. You can select by a single day. You can select for transactions for an entire month, or you can do a date range. And you have the choice of including open orders, closed orders, canceled orders, and failed orders. The difference between those, an open order would be an order that has been authorized, but it's still pending capture. We capture once a day at 6 p.m., and then those are all settled by 7 p.m. those transactions would be, if you want to see transactions that have already been completed. So that would be any transactions that happened for like previous days, and you want to see the actual completed transactions. Canceled transactions would be transactions if your particular bureau uses address verification, the zip code verification, or the security code verification on the credit cards, and if those happen to fail, and so they were incorrect, and your bureau has opted to not process transactions that fail those particular validations, those get marked as canceled. So basically, it's still an authorization, but it's canceled, and that means it's never going to settle. That's it. It's just canceled. A failed transaction is going to be any transaction that would be like a decline, or over credit limit, or for whatever particular reasons that the bank has declined that particular transaction. So I'm just going to look at all of them for Water BP. There we go. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
The size is okay?
I can see most of it.
Well, yeah, I'm because of the screen size here, and then it's going through the Ready Talk, and then I don't know if you're watching it on a monitor or if it's being projected. It kind of plays with the resolution. So is that better? I mean, I know I'm going to have to scroll around a bit, but normally you wouldn't have to do that. I mean, I think it's just in all this transmission that it's probably changing all the size. So here I have 4 transactions. These were actually when I did the search. I click here and see, how did I do that? Oh, I did just for today. So these are 4 transactions that were all entered today, and you can see here we have some that are already, when this invoice amount shows up, these are ones that have already captured, and here's one that hasn't captured. So this one is actually still sitting out there. It's just got an authorization. It's waiting for capture. And in the let's pull up one. Let's go back and look at one that is complete, and then I'll show you the different sections of the screen. Okay, here's one that it has been completed. As you can see here, here's the order status says it's complete. Here's our order ID. Here's the local reference ID, which is going to be this person's account number. The next few pieces of information are kind of internal. This just shows that who the merchant was, the processor name, and that's not a person. That is our financial processor, what financial processor we're using. The process was used to process this payment. And the service code, which is it's the Water BP. Order date. Here we have the customer information. In the case of when the IVR applications come online, obviously we don't really have that customer information, so they'll probably I believe the contact will just say anonymous, because we don't know. They were paying over the phone, so we don't really know what their they can't type in their name and address and that sort of thing. Here we have some order attributes. Most of these are mainly internal flags and things that are set. On this side over here, we have the items that were actually ordered, the items that were invoiced, or the actually invoice itself. I'm sorry, and then the items that were invoiced. So these will always be the same. The order items are typically always collapse down when you come into the screen. And then we have the transaction history, and this is going to show you that there was an authorization that was done and then a payment. So the authorization is just that. This was the authorization piece, and that will be the only thing you're going to see until the capture happens. And then when the capture happens, that's when the payment shows up. And you can see there's more details about this here in the authorization. You can see here's the actual auth code that came from the bank for this. Here you can see how the AVS and the CVV, those will always be returned, but whether or not your bureau decides to act on them it will determine whether or not the transaction completes. In this case, the address was that we had the address and the zip didn't match, but the CVV was good, and so for this particular service, they're only verifying CVV. They're not verifying the address, so the payment was allowed to continue. And then here's the actual payment itself. It just shows that it the same information of what was. There's not an AVS or this on the I'm sorry, this is the capture on the capture part of it. This just shows basically that the capture was a success. So that's the detail that we have on every transaction. Again, here, if you wanted to, you can search from here. This is kind of like using the quick search. If you happen to be here, say, oh, I just need to go look at another order. You don't have to go all the way back. You can just enter in new information right here and hit go, and then you'll go to that other transaction. We also have an advanced search. And on the advanced search, you get a few more options. You get the ability to search by customer, by credit card, and by bank account. The billing is not option is not part of this implementation, so you won't be using that. So if I come to the Water VT, you also have additional options over here where you can say, to try and really narrow down your transaction. If you know exactly what the order amount was, you can put that in here. You have the same start and end date option, but you can also get right down to hours and minutes if you need to. If you know specifically, someone says, oh, I just made a transaction 15 minutes ago, but I don't know, that's all I know. You can see all the transactions that happened within the last 15 minutes. And the same thing, you still have the same options of including open orders or the closed orders, canceled or failed orders. This is the basic one. Then you can actually expand upon that, and you can say, here's the customer name, and on the customer name search, the name itself is you can use a wildcard. And typically what I do is because you never know exactly how someone's going to enter their name or how their name may be entered on the system. So I typically add the wildcard at the beginning and the end. Let's see. And I'm going to see if I have actually any out here for today. I think I do. And I do. So in this case, there were two Jamars up there. There was a Jamar Test and a Jamar Smith. So again, here's the search criteria that I was using. I'm actually going to take this back to the actual full advanced search page on its own. And so we also have, if they're used a credit card, you can do the same options here above as far as limiting the time frame and the type of orders that you want to search. but you also have the ability then to search by a specific card number, and that again is the last 4 digits of the card number. Name on the card, that there is no wild card on that, so you'd have to be exact to the way that they entered the transaction. And you also have the ability to select what type, if they know, here's my last 4 digits of my card, and it was a Visa card. That will help narrow it down some. The bank account is used for ACH transactions, and it's basically the same as the credit card. The only difference is in the account number, it's the last 4 digits of their bank account number. But it works the same. So I want to show you another part of our the last piece of the search I want to show you. And this is true of the results that you get from the advanced search or the order detail search. The test system is running a little slow today. It appears I've lost my connection. Hold on just a sec. Okay. I'm going to go back to my order detail search. I'm going to do order VT. I'm going to select for the entire month. And I want to see all the orders. Okay. So here are all my orders for the month. And what I wanted to be able to show you is that anytime you get on one of these result pages, and maybe this has all the information you're looking for, you have the ability to export this data into any of these different formats. So if you got to this point and said, okay, this is exactly, I just need, from my search, this is what I needed to know, you could go ahead and export it to Excel. And then you'd be able to pull that up in Excel and you'd be able to play with all this information. Or you can print it out in any of those others, like a PDF form or any one of those formats. So do I have any questions on the searching, being able to search for orders?
No.
Okay. So we'll move on to the reports. We have a lot of online reports, and a number of these reports are not going to be applicable to your particular implementation. So I'm going to focus on the reports that are going to be valuable to you. One is the batch detail report. The batch detail report is going to show all the transactions that happened on a particular day that would be matched up with your bank reconciliation. So you will, because you close your day at, because you have to have your settlement completed by 7 p.m., so your day is basically, and we need time to do that, so your day is basically going to, transaction day is going to be 6 p.m. to 59 p.m. each day. And those that's what's going to be submitted to the bank for settlement. So those transactions will then, we're going to create a specific report for you for reconciliation, which is based on this batch detail report. And that will show you, and it's been identified the individuals who will be receiving this report every day, the special report every day for reconciliation. If you run the report online, it's going to be based on a calendar day, so that's midnight to midnight, not your 7. So you could still run this report and to look at the figures, but it's not going to match up to your actual bank account. So I'm going to say I want to see the water VT, and I want to see all the transactions for a single day. I'm going to say today. And we want all orders. We want all credit card types and ACH as well. So then in this report, what you're going to see is the order ID, who the merchant was, the service code, and these will actually, the merchant ID and the service code, when you see them on production, they will, I mean, these make pretty, other than the merchant ID doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you guys, but on production it will. It actually will say, I believe it's COP_water, and water VT is the service code. Our financial processor, you'll be able to see the implement, the client trace. The client trace is going to be your customer's account number, that it was a payment, and the transaction date and the amount. This will also report to you any refunds. So let me go back and look. Let me rerun this for, let me see if I run this for the entire month of August. You should see on here, okay, you can see here, in this case, there was a payment that was processed. There was also a refund that was done on this day. Here's another refund that was done on another day. So the net of this is going to be, should match up with your bank statement. Now, the only thing that's not going to show up on here are chargebacks. And the reason for that is we are not part of, we're the gateway, but we're not part of the banking process. So Elevon, we are not notified whenever a chargeback happens. It shows up on your bank account, but it doesn't. But it's not processed through us, so we don't know that it even exists. So you'll have the ability to enter those chargebacks into our system after the fact, but we don't have any way of knowing that a chargeback happened. So that's the batch detail report. The invoice reports are going to be useful to you. The invoice reports are going to show transactions that have actually basically invoices the same as captured. So this is going to show you transactions that have captured versus anything that is still pending, or if it was canceled or declined, those won't show up on here. This is only going to show you actual transactions that were captured. I can see water BT, all invoices for today. As you can see, we have 3 orders that have already captured today. And again, it's the order ID, the date, the actual order date, which is typically going to be well. These days could be different, because if an order was placed after 6 p.m. today, it's not going to invoice until we do the capture tomorrow evening. So these days, it could be off by 1 day, because depending on when the order was actually placed. We don't add on any fees. All the transactions are 100% going to the bureau, so you get the entire sale. The entire gross revenue and everything. There's no additional fees that are being paid to us by the customer.
I'm sorry, Eric. This is Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just go back to that one and just
Sure.
explain again about the order date, what you were saying about how it could be different?
Right.
Sure that I understand.
Because we capture once a day so that we can get a clean cutoff for the deposit.
Mm-hmm.
So orders are entered all through the day, and at 6 o'clock is what the cutoff is.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that happened that was entered that day at 6 o'clock, we're going to capture all those funds.
Right.
So those transactions would have the order date and the invoice date would be the same.
Okay. That's
If you have basically the transactions that happen between 6 p.m. and midnight, those will have an order date of today, but those won't capture until tomorrow. So the invoice date will be tomorrow's date.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Sure. There's the invoice reports. There's some will show more item detail. You can also just get an item summary or just an invoice summary, which is basically just going to tell you. I mean, it's very short. I'm just going to. This probably has the least amount of data. It's just going to really tell you how many orders invoiced is really all and a total is really all you're going to see on this. You're not going to. There's no detail associated with it. Yeah. See here, you can see that for the Water Bureau, there were 19 orders for the month of August, and the amounts. That's all. Really, that's what that one will show. The next grouping is going to be the order reports. Now, the difference between the order reports and the invoice reports is an order report is going to show you just that. It's all orders, or it could be all orders, regardless of the outcome of that transaction. So the order reports are going to show you things that are still pending, waiting to be captured. It's going to show you orders that were captured. It can show you orders that were canceled and orders that were declined. So it's really the same. There's a little bit different information that you see on those. So I'll go to the order item detail, the order VT, and I'm just going to look at today's orders. And this should pull up a list that's basically going to look like that order detail or the order search that I did, because this is going to show the orders that have already captured, and then it should also show the one transaction that is that's still sitting out there pending.
Right.
So this is going to show us Oh, okay. Yeah, this one is actually, it's showing us that here are the different order IDs, the local reference number, the date, the merchant service, the SKU. And so basically it's just showing this particular order item detail report. It's just showing us that there were 4 items. They all had the same SKU, and there was no instance ID, so these are pretty generic orders. So it's just basically going to show that there were 4 orders out there. Let's see, order item detail.
Do you mind if I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
This is Valerie at the Water Bureau. Last week when I sat in on this, you made the comment that it was a 7 o'clock cutoff time. Today it's a 6 o'clock cutoff time.
Yeah,
is that changing?
Because they had to change it because the 7 o'clock cutoff that you were using before, that's because that was in place with Elevon when Elevon was doing their own settlement.
Okay.
And now that it's been determined, now since we are doing all the processing now, we have to have time to get the stuff to Elevon by 7 o'clock. Elevon was able to set, because they already had all the data on their system before.
Okay.
They were able to say, okay, I just select everything that came up to 7 o'clock and settle that. Where we don't have that ability, we have to actually send them the transaction. So, and I'll make sure that this was actually just recently decided. So I will make sure that Jennifer notifies everyone that is a change that's going to be coming, is that it will be 6 o'clock now.
Okay, so everything that's been collected through 6 o'clock is what we will see as a bank deposit.
Correct.
Okay. All righty.
We also have, here are our refund and our return reports. Now, the refund report, I'll go out and show you. Here we have, I'm going to just run it for, and there's 2 different methods of refunding, and I'll show you the refund screen here in a second, and I'll explain the difference between a marked refund and an issued refund. But right now I'm just going to look at both. So this is the report. Someone was asking earlier about, can we get some kind of a report about refunds, and this is exactly what it would be. This is the report you would get. The username is going to tell you who did the refund, what the actual invoice date was, what the refund date was, and that it was issued, and the amount. You can do partial refunds, so this will show the amount that was refunded in the original order that it was going back to. We have a returns report. I'll show it to you, but since we don't have returns or not, which is chargebacks, since they are not loaded automatically into our system. So the only thing that would be reported here is if your bureau chose to actually enter those chargebacks into the system to keep track of them. Then you would be able to get a report on those. But the chargebacks are totally a manual process because we don't get notified of those. So the refund that I don't think I have any in there, but the return detail, the return reports, they look the same as the refund reports. It just tells you, I think there's an added column that says I don't have any chargebacks that are in the system that I can show you, but I believe it tells you whether it was basically it shows you everything that you put in there. Like if you put in that it was returned, and then if you go back and do enter in a return reversal, that would show up on there too. So, but those, again, the chargebacks are a totally manual process. Do I have any questions? Any other questions on the reports?
No.
Okay. I am going to log out as this user. and log in as a different user that has the ability to do cancels and refunds. Actually, I don't want to use that. Let me try it. See. Well, I guess I will use the other one. This particular user, you're going to see a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily see because this user has access to a lot of different services. So I'm going to do a search. See here, this one. This user has access to a lot of different things. This particular part would be obviously be narrowed down just like it was on the other user to just what you have access to. I'm going to come down here to Water VT. I'm going to find transactions that happened today. And in this case, James Jones has called and said, hey, I messed up. I really didn't mean to make a $101 payment. Can you cancel that? So I'm going to go and if I go to that particular user, you'll see that down here in the bottom right, I have the ability to cancel this order. And that's all that's going to do. If I click that button, all it's going to do is change the status to canceled, and this transaction is now dead. It will not capture or settle. It's really that simple. But in this case, I'll just go ahead and do that and show you. So now, boom, this order is now canceled. So now this order is now dead. It's not going to go anywhere. Now, another person called. And in this case, we're going to talk about the refunds and chargebacks. We can do it because it's all done in the same area. So I need to pick an order that has already captured. So this order is complete, and I'm going to go out to the payment piece. And I'm going to say, when I click on that, now I have the ability to create refunds or mark a return. So if this was a chargeback, this is where you would come in and you fill out this information here that says give us whatever the reason was, or if there's a reference ID that was given along with the chargeback. And then you would enter in the amount. It won't let you refund or mark it for an amount greater than the original transaction. And then you would just submit that. I'm going to go back, though, and say this person wants a refund. Go back. Oh, so here it's the same thing. It's going to show, here's the original transaction and the remaining amount that's allowed to be refunded. So this will get reduced if you did a partial refund and then you came back later and said, oh, well, we really needed to give all of it back. You would only be able to give back the remaining amount. So I'm going to enter in my refund amount, and it's going to show that I'll have nothing left when it's all done. Now here's the difference between issued and marked. Like we said before, there is a 60-day window for doing refunds. Your bureau may decide that you don't want to wait that long, but that's what the window is for issuing refunds. And during that time, you can issue the refund and it'll put the money right back on their credit card. And that would be what you would do if you want to issue a refund. If this person were calling after that 60-day period and said, I want a refund, well, you can no longer actually issue the refund through TPE because the 60 days is up and we no longer have their credit card information on file. So at that point, you would have to issue a paper check to that person. But you may want to keep track of that because you wouldn't, if the person called back and talked to another person, you'd want everyone to know that a refund was already done. So in that case, like if you issue a paper refund to someone, that's when you would come in here and you would do the mark refund because that's not going to affect any banking. That's just going to mark it here in TPE that a refund was done. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and issue the refund. This is the case in this particular case, and I'll show you another one here in a second, but this transaction was captured today, but it hasn't settled yet because it won't settle till 7 o'clock. So in this case, I can't actually issue this refund until it actually gets settled tomorrow. And this is what you'll see when that happens. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to pick an earlier date so that I can show you that same process. See failed. I don't want to see canceled. I don't want to see open orders.
This is Kelly. So even though the system error said use void, there is no void function. No. Okay.
No, I think that was if this had been if this was prior to, let's say this transaction was prior to 6 p.m., you would, when it says use void, you would cancel instead.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick this transaction. And you see I have a payment here. I'm going to go to my payment. And I'm going to create my refund. And it was successful. Now when I go back to my order details and my transaction history, you would see that there is a refund now, that it was successful. Okay. And then you can, on the screen, you can add a comment. I would add a comment on this screen. if you wanted to put in like the reason that the refund was given, you can put that in here. The reason I would put it here instead of over on, because you have the ability to do a comment here too, but then the person would have to come over, would have to come over and specifically look here to see that there was a comment. If it's on the main screen, that means here, when someone comes to this main screen, this is that shows all of the history of this transaction, then they're going to see this. They see it right here on the front screen rather than having to dig into an individual transaction that went along with this particular order. And that's really all there is to refunds and returns. Do I have any questions on those?
No.
No? Well, unless there are any other questions, that's all I have for, that's really all there is to it right now. I believe there was a list of users that are now set up in our test system, and BTS will be passing that information out to you. And then as you go live, we'll be also giving you the URL, the link, and the user and password to production. We've only found 2 cases so far that we were not able to match your city network user ID. So we're trying to keep it the same so that you don't have to try and remember different user IDs.
Oh, great.
Obviously, you'll have a different password, but you won't have to remember a different user ID. Like I said, we've only come across 2 instances where we were not able to do that. So let me hold on just a second here.